I am joined here today from our representatives from Lewis. I've got Coach Dan Friend and Libero Nico Paula. I know I just introduced you guys, but can you go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I'm Coach Dan Friend of Lewis University Men's Volleyball, going on my 22nd season.
Yeah, my name's Nico Paula. I'm a senior libero here at Lewis.
Coach Friend, I want to talk about your schedule this season because you bring UCL, you bring sorry, yeah, you bring Pepperdine, and you bring UC San Diego into your gym, but you're also taking a trip to Hawaii where you'll face UCLA and Hawaii. What about your coaching or your scheduling philosophy is helping you prepare for a really hard conference?
Yeah, I think goalies we're trying to play a top 20 schedule. I think if you want to compete for a league title and you want to compete for a national championship, you got to put yourself in a position, especially in your non-conference schedule. So there's a balance with, playing some top 20 and playing some other programs that are good, and putting yourself in a good spot. And I don't think my philosophy's changed over that ever since I've been here, from that standpoint. And the other part of it is like, I always tell the guys we're trying to hit every top 20 gym in the country over the course of their 4 years. And so, we're opening up at Menlo and Stanford. And so that'll be great. And yeah, I haven't been to Menlo before, but Leahy's a new coach there, so it's great to see him. And then we're going over to Costi at Stanford. And then the following weekend we go to Penn State. And so I think those are our first few matches as we get into it. And then yeah, like you said, we've got UC San Diego and Pepperdine coming here, along with a few other non-conference matches, but those two teams will be tough for sure. And currently my fellow podcasts are abroad from UC San Diego, so I'm sure there'll be some bragging rights when it comes to that. And then yeah, the outrigger tournament's always phenomenal to go play. It's mid-league season, so that's always interesting, I think, because league's already a grind, and then you go and you play three matches in a row, and they're all three be good opponents, certainly UCLA and Hawaii, and the guys who have never played Hawaii at home and that place is packed. It's one of the best atmospheres in the country to play volleyball, and I'm sure UCLA is going to be pretty good. And then Mount Olive, and we've got a couple connections there with OG and their coach, and so that'll be a fun match for us as well.
Talk about your match with Penn State. What about being on Mark Pavlik's farewell tour has you excited to go to their gym?
Oh, it's great. I mean, me and Mark have known each other a long time, and we talked before that announcement. And I love Pav. He's a phenomenal human being, not just a great coach, but one of the best that does it. And certainly he's had a phenomenal career. And so I can't bring a rocking chair with me and put it in his chair like I did to Arnie Ball, and I think Arnie Ball was going to kill me. But it'll be great to play Pav, and it'll be a good battle. It usually is. And so.
Nico, you are one of five seniors on this team. Anything that's changed from last year to this year, any specific motivator that we haven't seen from you in the past to go out and win the MIVA this year?
Yeah, well, I think the easy thing to identify is, that senior leadership role. It's something that you don't really kind of feel until you actually are placed in that position. I know me and Haber have really been focused, especially as captains, to leading our team and kind of reintroducing the idea of continuing on like the legacy that Lewis has had in previous years. But I definitely think that's the main contributor to what's going to be different from previous season, at least for me personally, just being a senior and having the experience and knowing that this is my last run and my last season. So I definitely want to make it known to the team that we're going to give it our all. And, like Coach Friend said, our schedule is definitely difficult at preseason, and then MIVA is just as hard. So we're ready to compete with whichever team we're playing, regardless if it's at Romeoville or away.
And you talk about being a leader, being one of two captains. What have you put upon yourself to not only have impact on the floor, but have impact off the floor in between workouts as a teammate, as a friend? What goes on as that captain role?
Yeah. Well, I mean, something that us as a program that we really prioritize is that off-court team chemistry. I don't know if you guys follow our Instagram, but we went paintballing and we do kind of a lot of stuff in team bonding activities off the court, which, that's captain led. And sometimes the coaches are involved as well. But, it really just helps foster that culture that honestly makes a 1 or 2 point difference in the fifth set. Like stuff like that really makes a key difference when you have trust. And especially as captains, that's our role, is to kind of instill that trust across all the teammates, regardless if you're a fifth year or a freshman coming in. That's something that we've really been focusing on. as captains, just making sure everyone feels included and regardless if it's related to lifting or volleyball, just having fun while doing it, but competing as well.
I want to focus on the Midwest as a whole, the MIVA conference as a whole. What about bringing high-level collegiate men's volleyball to the Midwest is so important for the growth of our sport?
You know, when I heard that question, I first thing that comes to mind is when we have matches in the Neil Carey, seeing all of the high schoolers and middle schoolers that come to our match and being able to show them that, you know, a couple kids from Bolingbrook High School come to a lot of our matches and showing them that collegiate level at the Division I level are playing schools like Penn State, 20 minutes away from their house. That's something that really instills like an inspiration to them. And, you know, if we can hopefully get more televised matches then people will be able to watch online and be able to see that the Midwest is just as good as, you know, the West Coast teams. And I think we can especially see it on the women's side as well. One of the top programs, you know, Nebraska, for example, they're from the Midwest and it just goes to show that it doesn't really matter what region or what area you're from, but more so like the players that you have there. And yeah.
Yeah, I think example would be the Louisville boys qualifier that just went on and how many boys are playing. You mean, yeah, California had their big SoCal tournament, and then there's one in Louisville, Kentucky, and teams are from certainly Midwest, East Coast, North, up in the Dakota, all those areas, which is fantastic. And so I just, you know, there's been good volleyball in the MIVA for a long time. Ohio State, 2 championships, Loyola, 2 championships. We were certainly in the mix for many years, you know what I mean? So it's like, and we still are. And so I think the thing is getting the product out in front of people and you know, and the ebbs and flows of, you know, West Coast versus Midwest versus East Coast. And so I think certainly there are probably more years where the West Coast is probably on the higher side, but there's certainly been plenty of years where the, you know, Penn State's won its championship and Anderson and you know, Brett Wildman was on that team a couple years ago, and so and there's been a ton of talent that has gone through the MIVA over the years, and you can see that with our national team and Jetski and Jendrick and other guys. You know what I mean from that standpoint. And so, but I think Nico hit it. It's like how do we get our product out in front of people? I do think there are more games. You know, not necessarily linear, but more games online now than ever before, which is fantastic for fans to see and the continued growth of the game. And so we just got to continue to kind of, you're going to have these periods, I think. Like right now, we got so many boys playing. You have the roster limits at the D1s. You have the D2s, NAIs, and D3s that maybe are somewhat bloated on their rosters. And so, but it's just growing pains. You don't have enough programs to sustain the level of kids that are playing. You know, we've expanded the championship to 12, which I think will be great. There's somewhere down the road where maybe D2 breaks off. So there's all these things in the pieces. And also, you don't have enough coaches to coach. You know, you see it in the club side. You know what I mean? They're trying to scramble for boys coaches. They got these boys that want to play. So all good things, and it's just part of those growing pains. But yeah, I think there'll be some lot of matches that are really good in the MIVA, and I'm excited to see league play. And I think the preseason rankings came out, and I think any of those top 5 or 6 teams could have been towards the top. You know, some graduated pieces, some new pieces stepping in. So excited for the year.
Yeah, yeah. You touched on a lot there. The expansion, you know, just overall coverage. As a coach, have implemented a strong culture at Lewis and one that consistently gets, you know, packed gyms. But if I'm not mistaken, your games aren't on ESPN Plus. There's your own. It's on YouTube.
Yeah.
What is keeping Lewis men's volleyball from breaking off of YouTube and being one of the, you know, MIVA teams that are on ESPN Plus?
Well, you got to remember Lewis is a D2, and they're part of the GLVC network. In order to move to ESPN, there's some equipment stuff that every institution has to have. Do you know what I mean? So I think we're trying to work towards that a little bit, but that's part of it. Like if you think about Loyola, their overall conference play is on ESPN, and they've got a studio in house, and we've got actually a studio on campus and everything. So working towards that, that's kind of the goal a little bit. Is to get us to where we could have that opportunity, but I just think there's some things that we have to put in place in order to do that. But for now, well, we're part of we did the World of Volleyball, Volleyball World, yeah, which was kind of cool. We did that for a year, and a couple of our bigger matches had 50,000 plus on the views, and so that was neat. But yeah, just something we're working towards. But for now, we're still free on YouTube, so free is a good thing. Do you know what I mean? And so yeah,
will not disagree with you there. But as we're talking about this upcoming season, what are you two both looking forward to about the 2026 season for Lewis men's volleyball?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things would be, playing with a lot of emotion. I think this team is really fiery and we're going to play with a lot of high energy, regardless if you're able to come watch us at home or if you're watching us on a live stream. We have returning players like OG, who, if you guys haven't watched, he's super fiery and intense. And, Diego might be going into that setting role and he's a really fiery setter as well and sets a really good tempo for us. But yeah, I think that's something that's really exciting to look forward to is just that high energy, fast paced, emotional volleyball from us.
Yeah, I just piggyback on that. I think we've got a talented group. We got some older guys that have been around and believe know what it takes to compete at the highest level. And we're inserting a couple new pieces, certainly at the setting position. Diego and then Cam's even been doing a great job from that standpoint. And then you're going to see that other outside spot. Who's going to kind of fill in. And we know Haber will be there, but is it the new Belgium guy? Is it Dehan? Cole's in that mix. So we've got some guys that are in that mix. And then we've got a nice solid middle core that's done a fantastic job. And there's some guys battling with that. And then Ian's been a great addition. He was a transfer in and just levels up our gym. And so I'm excited as the guys get back here. Always a little nervous because we do all the work in the fall and then you take like 2.5 weeks off and then you come back. But the group comes back around December 28th and we'll get after it. And yeah, and you know this, it's a long season. So how do you put yourself in a position to sustain and grow as the season goes along and get the wins that you need to? Because I think RPI, now with 12 teams, the RPI and you taking care of matches and all that stuff gets even more important to put yourself in a position towards the end.
Well, you talk about your position players and who's bringing impact. One of those players is on this Zoom right now. One of the best liberos in the MIVA, one of the best liberos in the country. What about Nico's energy on the court? His skills as a player elevates your team, coach.
Yeah, I don't know if we have long enough for me to talk about how I feel about Nico, and I probably get somewhat emotional. And because what most people don't realize is beyond his play is how he's elevated our program. He's a phenomenal young man, and the catching up with coach is fantastic. It doesn't. Somebody may sit in there, somebody I don't know, but it won't be the same. And so I'll enjoy this year with him from that standpoint. And then we get into his play and his growth as a player has been phenomenal, and how much he's improved and what he brings and the stability he brings. And yeah, yeah, you said it. He's one of the best in the country. He's one of the best that's been through our program. So I'm fantastic to get after it this season with him one more time.
And
Sorry,
then
Nico, if
Nico,
I get made you in front of you. You know what I mean?
well, I'll give Nico a chance to exchange the favor. Nico, what about Coach Friend's leadership has just made you buy in to this Lewis program and just stay around for 4 years?
I think something that Coach Friend does really well is, he's willing to change his coaching style depending on the player that you are. So, like my freshman year, he kind of discovered that, the way he coaches some other players may not work with me and vice versa. And he's really put in the time to do some different exercises, bringing in outside people to help identify what works for specific players. And I think that's really admirable for a coach, who's been at a program for so long to still be willing to change his coaching style to tailor to his players. And I think that speaks volumes about who he is as a person. And I'm definitely really appreciative. Playing collegiate volleyball is not easy, especially with the growth of social media and stuff. People are always talking. And so it's nice to have an amazing coaching staff that, supports you and uplifts you regardless of how you're playing. And, if they instill confidence in you, which they have for me all 4 years, I can say that I'm really happy to be a Flyer all 4 years. And it's insane that this is my last season. So I'm going to take it all in for sure.
Well, I was recently on a conversation with Coach Nikki Sandlin, and she mentioned you, Coach Friend, saying that Lewis is one of the teams, along with McKendree, that likes to live in the dirt, likes to live in the uncomfortable. What about your training? What about your practices? Get the best out of your players where you're living in the dirt, where you are uncomfortable in the comfortable in the uncomfortable situations. That when it comes to MIVA play comes to those UCLA Hawaii matches that just completely flips a switch in the skill of your players.
Well, I've always believed that. I mean, I kind of call it middle class work ethic, like get after it and grind and go and blue collar and like, hey, it doesn't matter whether you come from money or you don't, or any of that. It's just like, what's your mindset going in and how are you going to put yourself in a position? We're fortunate enough here sometimes that we'll recruit some players that are, blue chip, and then we'll recruit some players that are like, I'm going to prove to you I belong. And so you mash those guys together, and it's like, I don't care who's across the net. Like, I mean, and Joe, I don't know how, I mean, I'm from Kansas. I'm not supposed to be coaching men's volleyball. Like, right? That's what it's like. Hey, why is some, Kansas kid, coaching at the highest level? And so I think I've always been in that mindset where it's like, hey, I'm gonna go get after it and prove, and that mindset hasn't changed. You know what I mean? From where I'm at, and even though I'm 30 years in, I think it's just like every time, let's get after it, let's compete, let's show everybody where we're at, what we can do, and certainly along the ways you have to educate yourself. I mean, you have to, what reaches the kids now, and where are we trying to go, and how do we get there a little bit faster? And there's always an evaluation. But yeah, playing in the dirt or grinding or getting after it or whatever word clause you want to use, I think it's your mindset and how you compete and how you play. And it's also how your lifestyle is a little bit. You know what I mean? I think Nico said it. The overarching theme is certainly we want to compete and play at a high level, but I think at the same time, we want to be good people and if not great people and hold the door when we can and say yes sir and yes ma'am and all those things that kind of go along with it about just your standards and your ethics, and that stuff becomes really important to our team culture and how we move and how we function.
Yeah. So Nico, how have you changed as a person through your time at Lewis Men's Volleyball?
I've changed in so many aspects. I think playing at such a high level for so long, it kind of puts into perspective like how competitive and intense the men's volleyball season really is. And, when you're younger and, you get all bright-eyed because, you want to play so well. And then as you get older, you kind of realize, like I mentioned earlier, things that are off the court are just as important as on the court. So, developing that team culture and like Coach Friend said, we really value things like being thankful and always saying thank you to the bus driver. Like you'll hear thank you 26 times or however many people we're traveling, you'll hear every single guy say thank you. So little things like that are really important. And that's something that's definitely changed in my eyes is that it's not just about like the volleyball and playing at a high level, but different things off the court as well. And it's always nice coming into a practice after an away match, and then coach mentions, "Hey, I got another email saying we were great, and they really admired how appreciative we were." And little things like that are just as important, and definitely put into perspective me how impactful we can be off the court.
Yeah. Well, to flip us back to the season, what are you most looking forward to for the 2026 season?
I am really looking forward to just our non-conference schedule. I mean, some of the people we're playing this year are really exciting, and to be able to say that I'm going to Hawaii twice and the Outrigger Invitational is just crazy. Because I remember going on my visit, it was mentioned that it was possible to maybe even go once. To say that I'm going twice is really exciting, and that atmosphere, like Coach Friend mentioned, is just you can't replicate it. And it's awesome because it's not so much that they're cheering against you. Like the people in Hawaii are just appreciate the sport of volleyball. They love the volleyball there. And it's just really cool to be a part of that environment. And then playing at Rec Hall as well at Penn State is going to be awesome. And playing at Stanford. So yeah, just the non-conference schedule is something I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, well, I get to go see Costi. So, in the last time we were at Stanford was COVID. So those were the last two games we played the 2020 season. And so it'll be fun to be back there and see him. I've known him a long time, worked with him. So I'm excited about that match and that opportunity. And then certainly we talked about the PAV already. Getting to go play there on his farewell piece will be great. And yeah, I mean, I've been to Hawaii quite a few times, and it's always one of the best places to play in the country. And so anytime you get that opportunity, and Charlie does a great job with this program, and Hawks is at UCLA, and so like it'll be great to be out there. And then the league, it's like so Diandolo is a Ball State, and he's an alum. So it's great to play Iandolo, and I coached Iandolo, so you guys know that. So like that'll be great. Shane's back in the league, and there's no loss in rivalry with me and Shane between Loyal and Lewis, and so you got a couple matches there where it'll be phenomenal, and Birch has done a great job, and so the league play will be great. Birch just had a kid too. Hopefully you'll bring that up with him, and so if they haven't had theirs, and so but yeah, excited to get the season going and get after it, and lots of cool places to go play. So.
Well, Well, that's the thing about the MIVA this year is there's a lot of unknowns, a lot of new coaches, a lot of new players, a lot of overturn that just I don't know. The unknown of it all is really exciting because anybody could really come out and be a dark horse. But with that, why should teams in the MIVA fear Lewis men's volleyball?
Why should they fear us? Well, I kind of mentioned it earlier, just the high energy, emotional volleyball. Looking back at my time at Lewis, I feel like we've kind of been in a position where we've had a couple underclassmen in the mix, couple freshmen playing, whereas this year I feel like we are a true like upperclassmen starting lineup, which is something that I personally haven't really experienced. And so I just think having that veteran experience and having people who got a taste of what like really good team success looks like. You look at last season having 20 plus wins, which was a huge accomplishment for us, but just getting a taste of that. And we want more. We've always talked about it and throughout the fall, and we want to see how far we can push ourselves. And I think people should be scared of that this year.
Yeah, I would just say I think every time you play Lewis, you're going to get a pretty consistent level uh, of what we're trying to do. So if you want to call that fear, if you want to call it, like Lewis is going to come in prepared, ready to go to get after it, and that's our goal. Our goal is to put our position self in a position every match to play the best volleyball we can do. Every opponent we play is good. We don't treat anybody different. That's a respect piece, and we're going to come in, we're going to get after it, and we're going to do our best to make sure we're putting a W in the column.
Well, with that, guys, I appreciate you taking the time to have this interview, and hopefully, I'll be able to make it out to at least a couple of your games, whether that be in Romeoville or in Hawaii or in Penn State. We'll find each other somewhere. But with that, guys, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.